Hey everybody, welcome back to Your Free TV. It is Friday, August 8th, 2025, 8/8/25, a great day here, the 200th day of President Trump's presidency here as 47. And of course, it is the 3-year anniversary of the Mar-a-Lago raid. Huge news coming out about that today to do with Bill Barr. We're going to get into that in a moment, but I'll start with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. I'm so glad to be back with you here today. I'm sorry about the lighting this week, where I'm having to be close to a server, being able to get this up. Next week will be better with the lighting. But we have so much to talk about today. So TGIF, I always say, thank God it's Friday, as if, our country could become again that place where people have a 40-hour work week and make enough money to pay a mortgage and support themselves. Wouldn't that be nice again? And that, we have the kids, when I was a kid, it was the kids that worked on the weekends. They were making, money, saving for college. They were doing stuff. And, it wasn't this kind of economy, but Trump is super bringing it back, and we have huge Trump wins. I mean, it's a never-ending thing that's going on here with the exposure of the deep state globalists, technocracy, attempt to take over America, plus everything else going on. So I'm going to jump in there. But I always start by saying thank you so much to everybody supporting the channel. I want to say thank you to Susan, Joette, um, Ice Princess, right? All of you who are supporting the channel monthly, everybody who keeps contributing, I'm so thankful, and especially for your prayers. I love that on Give, Send, Go, like there's a giant amount of prayers that come through, and I'm so appreciative. And I always know that you're praying for me in the channel anyway, and I'm so, honestly, it really keeps me going. So, okay, we jump in here with the news, and I will plug at the end of the channel. I will mention, of course, up front, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Code for 10% off is YAFTV for the incredible, uh, most, basically the most advanced lab in the world in Houston, Texas, makes C60 Evo. And it is the people who have been making it from the beginning. They make all the fullerenes. They make the fullerenes for industry, and then they make a super purified ESS60 molecule that is devoid of all adjuvants, anything that's in there when they have to process it to get actually the C60 product. It is incredible, this lab in Houston, Texas. And c60evo.com is the sort of gold standard of carbon 60 if you want to take this supplement, which cleans out your mitochondria, fights inflammation, people using it for the big C, etc. And at the end of the channel, I'll talk about anybody who contributes to the channel gets 15% off, different code and email sent to you. But I also am doing a fundraiser for the channel, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. So, okay, those are the capsules. Of course, there's the MCT oil, which is amazing. I love it in coffee or just basically before workouts. The MCT oil, the coconut oil, great for inflammation, fighting before or after workouts. And this is the liquid olive oil that people love so much as well. Okay, so, all right, jumping in, we have so much to talk about. Thanks for putting up with that 4 minutes of preparing, but there is so much happening, and it's another amazing, incredible day in the Trump administration at 200 days. And so I'm going to talk about first a few HHS wins and just American people wins here to do with health. And one of them is that RFK Jr. now has come out and said that Medicaid and Medicare in any hospitals across the country where they're doing transgender surgeries on youth, anybody under the age of 18, none of those places will be reimbursed for surgeries when these are related to Medicaid or Medicare. And so this is massive. It's awesome. It's fantastic. Let's just remember that HHS, RFK Jr., 2 weeks ago came out and said, guess what? We have a little problem with the transplant industry in our country not doing basically their Hippocratic oath. That there is, people who aren't, you know, aren't actually dying or dead or brain dead, that they are contracting organs from. So much great stuff coming out of HHS with RFK Jr. And he was meeting in Alaska for a report about these surgeries and other things, but basically, and also the the mRNA vaccines, that he is saying, look, this is an antigen producing factory in your body. We're getting them out. And so incredible for RFK Jr. that he is raising the red flag about mRNA shots and getting them out and shutting down the 22 studies and fundings of $500 million in all of it. So that is incredible. But the FTC Act 12 and 5, pulling out the stops here to stop any funding to Medicaid and Medicare hospitals that are performing these surgeries on youth. So that is a fantastic win. We also had a win a couple days ago, and this had to do with a great group who were advocating this, and again through HHS and RFK Jr. Feds for Medical Freedom, having to do with everybody who lost their jobs in the federal government, including military, including the vaccine database. And so you've seen come out vaccine database, meaning keeping a record of all the federal employees, including military, who got the shots and boosters and all this crap. That Trump has said, we're getting rid of it. We're eliminating that database. We're not keeping track of your vaccinations, especially from the awful bio war that happened. And so that's amazing, and great job by the Feds for Medical Freedom. Big win. Record of compliance on COVID shots to be totally destroyed. Any mandates, of course, are over, but this was hugely used against people who were pro-Trump or MAGA, and Christians, specifically targeted with this. They didn't go after everybody, okay, regarding the shots. They went after specific people who they targeted using social media, using everything. And so much of that is also connected with today's video, which we'll get into. And then there's another thing happening to do with Big Pharma, which is also very exciting. And this has to do with, let me find it here. It has to do with a movement to get Big Pharma out of our ads. Okay, and there's only the USA and New Zealand who allow Big Pharma to fund the media. Okay, let me put on the glasses. Who allow uh, who allow Big Pharma to fund the media? Okay, and it goes from 70% to like 95% of Fox News, CNN, everybody. Oh, brought to you by Pfizer, for all those years where we were almost decimated by the bio war. And what we have here now, there's a really cool movement going on to do with Americans for Pharma Reform. Americans for Pharma Reform, and they have a website called bustbigpharma.com, bustbigpharma.com, and you can go there, sign a petition. This is to get a number of things out of, mainstream media wouldn't exist in our television shows as far as cable, right? I know so many people don't even do that anymore, but so many, and I think it's so important because, the older generations, people watch those things and they're constantly pummeled. Get your shingles vaccine, which was, of course, renewed, which is a bad thing that needs to end. But, get all these things shot into you, and it's all Pfizer, or, it's all these other farmer companies, Big Pharma, the people intent on destroying you to control you as a patient for the rest of your life. Well, busbigpharma.com, they're starting a nationwide town halls tour, a bus tour, which is very cool. I think they're kicking it off this Saturday in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Ban Big Pharma ads bus tour. And so they're trying to get the Big Pharma ads off of the cable networks. And again, it's only the USA and New Zealand who even allow this, okay? And it pays off for them hugely. And so, all the news networks that are on the cable, they're paid at least 70% or sometimes up to 95% by Pfizer at all, okay? And what's going on here is, they're trying to spotlight every candidate or politician in office who gets paid by Pharma, trying to get the word out. And what they want you to know is that Pfizer, et cetera, they get to deduct all of their advertising, okay? All of the advertising they do on the mainstream media, they get to deduct it from their taxes as basically a kickback. And that's, that is how the tax system's working. It's interesting that Scott Bessent is being put in as the IRS interim director. I'll get into that in a moment. But with busbigpharma.com, go sign the petition. And a few things they want: no tax deductible advertising. So they just deduct it. They pay all the bills of mainstream media. They pay their entire salaries of all these people, and yet they get to deduct it all from their taxes. All right, that's disgusting. And also, to basically, they levy fees. Okay, so they do directed consumer advertising, dollar for dollar match. What they want, through busbigpharma.com, is they want to be able to offset the cost of Medicare and Medicaid with levying fees against big pharma until the ads are gone, where every ad that they post, and every dollar that they pay for those ads with mainstream media, that they have to pay an equal dollar that goes to offset the taxation of the American people to do with Medicare and Medicaid. And I think that's a fantastic thing as well, until it's gone. And so check it out, busbigpharma.com, and I will link it below. And so, okay, there's so much happening today besides all those great wins, but I want to jump in here. I think we'll start with Bill Barr because, we talk about him so much. He is, of course, the last guy to see Jeffrey Epstein alive. Supposedly, he's dead, and his brother says so. And the biggest, most important forensic the autopsy guy says, "Oh no, his neck was broken in 3 places. He's dead. Whatever." But anywho's what's okay. Bill Barr, Mossad, his dad, Don Barr, we know, was the handler of Epstein before Ghislaine Maxwell came in and took him over as the successor to her father, Robert Maxwell. And all these people getting into reaching back to the Trotskyites of southern Russia and Ukraine and everything we're dealing with. Now we're seeing a peace plan coming, and we're going to be talking about that in this video. The peace plan where basically Russia wins. And on some level, you have to wonder, did Trump wait it out to let Russia win? Because they won. And Russia is our actual ally. And yes, that doesn't mean we're all super friends. It means that we don't have a vendetta against each other to have a globalist, Dionysian-style backdoor attempt to overthrow the United States through cultural revolution means of the EU and Israel, etc. And so it's an interesting situation. I'm going to get to it in a minute, but we're going to stick here with a couple things. I think I'll throw Scott Bessent in here for a moment before I go to Bill Barr and what has come out through Project Veritas and the secretary who has all the goods, who is basically saying Bill Barr has been in on the lawfare design against Trump, with all the big ups from the get-go from years and years ago, and that all of this has been recorded and she has the goods. So Scott Bessent here for a second. What we get here with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's being put in as the standing director of the IRS. They're basically kind of booting out Billy Long, former representative out of Missouri, who they put in as the head of the IRS. And a lot of us know that Billy Long was saying we need to get rid of the IRS. It's just it's totally corrupt. The taxation on the people is awful, and the way they do the IRS is just to totally go after their targeted people. And whether, he went in there to combat what they were doing against the Christians and the nonprofits to do with Christianity, but also all the people that were targeted, the parents who objected to the DEI in the schools, the MAGA people, all of us forever for so long. We're all dealing with it, and 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 so Billy Long, they're kind of offering him some ambassadorship, saying, "Hey, thanks, but we need somebody," and this is kind of gets into what I'm saying is we need somebody maybe with a little more know-how, because we're dealing with the IRS and it's this massive leviathan of an organization. And it's like when you look at Kash Patel, you look at Dan Bongino, you look at these other people in charge of these mega organizations like FBI, Dan Ratcliffe, CIA, you might say, hey, are you qualified to actually handle the massive deep state bureaucracy that is the senior executive service, that is all of these people with their multiple level jobs, with multiple retirement plans, with everything they've been doing their whole lives through the bureaucracy, in handling the IRS to handle maybe the dismantling, as Billy Long wanted so much. So Scott Bessent being put in there, and Scott Bessent, of course, has been, of course, the organizer of the tariffs and the creation of the possibility of an external revenue service. Trump hinted the other day that there could be a dividend to the American people to do with the tariffs, that the American people deserve to be paid back for the ripoffs of the last 10 years. It goes way back before that, but basically the planned destruction of this country's economy by the globalists using Obama, Biden, etc. And it's, of course, specifically massively in the last 5 years under Biden, and 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 that there could be an external revenue service to come in here. And so it's interesting to see Scott Bessent being put in there as the standing director. Um, we know that the economy is being destroyed by the IRS, or by the income tax, okay, of the American people, as they can't afford to buy homes, to afford a mortgage, afford a car, just to do daily life. It's nothing like what it used to be in this country when I was saying TGIF earlier, and basically that anybody making really less than $350,000 a year, I think I'll just put out there as a figure, should not really be taxed, and certainly not anybody making less than $100,000 a year. That there needs to be a way for the IRS to do with um, only taxing the rich. Okay. And so we'll see what goes on here. It's interesting that Trump is making this move, putting Scott Bessent in, moving Billy Long out. I think it had to do with competency. And so I will leave it with that. And so Trump did, and we're going to get into Bill Barr, I promise, but it's all interconnected here. As I'm always saying, all of these things are interconnected. And one thing that Trump did do, as I mentioned yesterday, he was coming together with the prime minister of Azerbaijan, the president of Armenia, that they were coming to do a peace deal, and they did it today in the White House, and had already been signed, etc. And what we're getting here is basically with Prime Minister Pashinyan and President Aliyev, that they reached a peace plan where they've been fighting for decades. And this is Christians, Muslims, it's a whole thing. And I've been reporting a lot for many, many months about how Israel has been, with Mossad, doing so much of the drones, the funding of Azerbaijan to attack the Christians of Armenia, especially about this one area that is coming into play here, and it's very interesting what's going on, because what they're saying is peace plan has been reached, territorial borders to be honored, and that they're going to open up commerce and trade in both countries, to be honored for 99 years, an agreement with the USA partnership on this corridor, which they are naming the Trump Route for Peace and Prosperity. Okay, the Trump Route for Peace and Prosperity. Hey, why not? Okay, why not? And what you're hearing them say is there will be an eternal peace in the southern Caucasus, right? The Caucasus, and so very interesting there, and important and amazing. And the one thing that gets kind of like, could there be a fly in the soup situation, or kind of what I was talking about maybe a few weeks ago, is that there is this ginning up of Israel Mossad um, to do with the funded and well, basically the militant sects in the southern border there of, bordering Iran, to do with Azerbaijan, and to do with this situation of creating conflicts on that border. Because when we talk about the situation of the Trump route for peace and prosperity, this is about a trade route that will allow there to be basically they're building a corridor. It's basically a rail and road corridor. They're going against China's Belt and Road. It's going to tie into Israel with OMEC. It's going to tie into all of this. And it could be Israel's way to try to get the USA and Trump into a war with Iran if they get to escalate these different militant sects, or basically just paid mercenaries, okay, to create some kind of awful thing to disrupt the American company coming in to create this Belt and Road situation, the Trump route of peace and prosperity, of rail and road across that northern border of Iran, to do with the stands, okay, all the way to Armenia, that they could create some war there. Okay, to create a reason why there's war, and to create a sort of a way for there to be a war with Iran now on this front. And I don't doubt it for a second that that will be something that they will attempt to do. It seems likely. Okay, so I'll just leave it at that with that. And this is, I'll mention this real quick, is, MTG has come out really strong. She's been hugely attacked by AIPAC. This has to do with what I said earlier about people being able to survive in this country with the economy as it's, building. Right now, people are hurting so hard. And MTG, super being attacked by AIPAC, Israel, et cetera, right now. And she's like, bring it on. She's like, I represent America, not Israel. And what she's saying is, I'm kind of beyond America first at this point. I'm at the point of America only. America only. And again, might get her wish, with the end of the Ukraine war, that whole planned creation of the stealing of everything out of Ukraine, pretty much complete, except for what Russia has grabbed. And Russia is winning the war. But basically, Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Georgia, where we had some new shooter at Emory University today. I haven't been able to keep up on that, but there was a live shooter at Emory University in Georgia. Very interesting. After 2 days ago, we have the live shooter, or you'll say even yesterday, at the base, the Army base there, the largest Army base in Georgia, east of the Mississippi, right? And everything that went down there. So it's very strange, all the stuff happening there at Fort Pierce, is it? Where everything's happening here in Georgia. Okay, and that we're seeing this as this breaking news coming out, where everything to do with Georgia, also super important with the Fulton County situation of the creation of that lawfare that became this massive case against Trump, to do with the election interference, etc., with Fani Willis being connected with Bill Barr for the creation of that case and making it into a RICO case. And we're going to get into that in a moment. But I think it's very interesting to understand that as we look at all of this, we're dealing with we have on the other side, on the side of the globalist leftist cabal, their massive lawfare infrastructure, and now it's coming back at them in and Trump administration is growing and growing their law army here, where amazing things are happening, like Ed Martin, who we love Ed Martin, and we don't want him to get too sidetracked into this thing, but Pam Bondi, we hope she's not sabotaging his other role in weaponization of government task force that is moving across the entire United States, had a $1 billion budget, 800 people employed under him to go on the weaponization of government train that Ed Martin is doing under the DOJ. Well, now she's putting him on this weaponization government task force um, to do with the Letitia James and the Adam Schiff mortgage fraud. Okay, that seems. I mean, it's important. Get Letitia James for sure. She deserves it. She'll get caught on the same thing she tried to get Trump on, and Adam Schiff, 100%. Get him. It's like as Trump always talks about himself compared to oh God, the mafia guy. He always talks to himself about being like Al Capone, and he says, well, they finally got him on tax evasion or whatever. So yeah, go after them, get him how you can, right? But we need Ed Martin on this massive weaponization of government situation that has everything to do with the larger picture. But we'll keep digging in there. But let's get to Bill Barr, and these revelations out of Patricia Leylis, whistleblower who had reported what was going on to the FBI and has been attacked ever since. She fled the country and kept all of her notes and notebooks and everything she did as secretary to Armstrong Williams. Super tight. Armstrong Williams, super, huge on media, super tight with Muriel Bowser out of DC. And so many others, and they're on the Capitol on J6 of 2021, and he has this huge connection with Bill Barr and connecting to organize the lawfare. And what came out of Project Veritas, and I'll link it below, you can watch it for yourself, is the secretary of him who fled the country and conserved her notes when she was threatened that she has to destroy them, turn them in. She basically has come out and said, I have the lists of everything that Bill Barr was doing in these meetings, and who they were going to target and everything that came down. So yesterday we saw the FBI firings, right, to do with Brian Driscoll, to do with Mayor, and the pilot who was in charge of flying the director of the FBI around, Patel. And he, of course, had been the one that organized all of the report to go into create the Mar-a-Lago raid. Today is the 3rd year anniversary of the Mar-a-Lago raid. And what she's saying is, well, it was Bill Barr in these meetings that had said, I think she said it was on March 15th of 2022. Today is actually the day it happened in 2022 of the raid on Mar-a-Lago. But she said we were at Sinclair Broadcasting at their studios, and we had a meetup with Bill Barr and Armstrong Williams, and we were talking about Fani Willis. We were talking about Jack Smith and creating this special counsel, everything to do with J6 that was going to have to do with Mar-a-Lago and the stolen documents scam. She says that, there was talk about the J6 investigation, the creating of the J6 committee. She had also been in those meetings where they were talking about Liz Cheney, Schiff, Pete Aguilar, Stephanie Murphy, Benny Thompson, all being atop of this. And that in her notes she has from her meetings that Liz Cheney was very, very close to Bill Barr, and they're the ones that created this Republicans against Trump. Remember when Liz Cheney tried to pull that out as if it was going to matter when she was trying to fight Trump's, 2024 election, Republicans against Trump, and now where is she? She's now where she was rejected. Her loss, okay, was the biggest loss in Wyoming history of how badly everybody said, screw you, Liz Cheney, you traitor to America, and your father too, while we're at it. And she was tight in here with Bill Barr. This is all coming out through Project Veritas. Very, very interesting here. She says as early, this is again, Patricia Lelis, the secretary of this man, Armstrong Williams, working closely with Bill Barr to be this kind of center of creating lawfare to stop Trump's return, but way back to J6, okay, way back to 2021 and ongoing from there, where you're seeing, she says on September 13th of 2021 was the first meeting that she knows of this RICO plan, this plan through Bill Barr to have a RICO investigation of Trump to do with J6 and to do with the ongoing persecution of the of anybody involved, okay, in January 6th, etc. She has full lists. She says that Bill Barr's targets, she wrote it down all in her notes. Again, Patricia Lelis, whistleblower, and she's not American. She sounds like French or French Canadian. And she fled the country to go back to her home country. She's like, I'm taking my notes with me because I reported to the FBI, and now I'm just kind of on her target list. And I'll link it below for you to watch for yourself. But basically, this had to do with going straight after everybody that they could attack, with Mike Flynn, Roger Stone, Steve Bannon, Kelly Ward, Nick Fuentes, but more importantly, Jim Jordan, Jeff Clark, okay, Rick Perry, Mo Brooks, so many others, Rudy Giuliani, huge in there, and multiple others. And this had to do with Fulton County, the election there, of course, the phone call of Trump to the lieutenant governor there, whose name is escaping me now, but you have the Governor Kemp, etc., where basically they did the massive steal there. That was the location of the loading of the ballots in the middle of the night, all the videos of the taking the tubs out from under the tables, and all of it, where they've already discovered the CCP pre-printed Biden ballots, okay, delivered in the tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands to Michigan and Pennsylvania and Fulton County. And basically, she's just saying, they were going after Giuliani, who's now bankrupted by all this lawfare. The great thing about what's happening now is the reversing of all of those fraudulent lawfares based way back to Russiagate, but going up through the election steal and then up through to the current, everything that's happened in between. So it's very exciting. Giuliano, of course, Mike Meadows. These, again, as I mentioned yesterday, you had the FBI guy who had first set up the arrest for Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon. They have both spent 4 months in prison for refusing to break their executive privilege for Trump. All of this was set up with hugely former AG to President Trump, Bill Barr, son of Donald Barr, who was the first creation and groomer of Jeffrey Epstein, the know-nothing college dropout at the Dalton School, who then became the heir to being the guy, the collector of people, as Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel, called him with his, 30 trips to Lolita Island, that they set him up, okay, to become Robert Maxwell's successor. Again, all of these same people out of Ukraine, their family histories, way back to the Bolsheviks, way back to this globalist plan for a one world government. And so, Very, very exciting to see this happening, this coming out, where we're just watching it in real time, where they are literally just the total J6 committee outlined in all of these whistleblower documents of Patricia Leylis. So we'll continue to cover that next week. I'm sure more is coming, and it's very exciting. It also actually gets into a visas sold to illegals for money racketeering operation to do with Bill Barr and Armstrong Williams for entertainment purposes only. That there's also a whole situation here about Bill Barr being involved in their getting visas for specific individuals, and this will probably reach and be connected to the auto pen of Biden, I would say, for some of these prison pardons, all of it, all of the money, as we follow that along. And so it's very exciting, very interesting. And we had also very interesting today, you had the Telegraph put out supposedly what they're saying is totally confirmed, the last living photo of Epstein before Bill Barr, or maybe while Bill Barr went to see him in prison before he was murdered. Wearing an IDF sweatshirt, okay, an IDF sweatshirt, okay, the IDF. So, very interesting. All right. So let's shift here to Russia winning the war, okay, against the globalists, Ukraine, America, under the globalist regime. Very interesting here because we're seeing this come out. And Trump did say today when he was meeting with the Azerbaijan and Armenian leaders, he said, without our efforts, this Ukraine-Russia thing was going to be a World War III scenario. And we're bringing it to an end, and it's coming up very close. And Putin and Trump are said to meet next week, could be as soon as this weekend, but of course they're not publicizing it. Not likely it'll be in the USA. Okay, maybe at the end of the day, down the road, there'll be some USA thing. Getting Putin to the USA, I don't know. But this meetup could be in the UAE. We don't know yet. But basically, it's looking like Russia wins everything. The different reports coming out of Bloomberg and et cetera, trying to, gin up some kind of everybody should be mad about this, that Putin's going to win. And we're just like, no, they won. Like, they won. That's what happens. Yeah. And so basically, there's this kind of this background thing of like Zelensky's got to go immediately as part of this deal. But where it's coming out is that the Eastern Donbass, Crimea, majority of Luhansk, majority of Donetsk will be conceded to Russia, the territories that they've largely already won. And it's kind of coming as, in my understanding from looking at all the different angles and the things I've read, this isn't coming as like a, hey, this is a great agreement. It's coming as a look, accept this, or we hit Kharkiv, we hit Kyiv, and we just plow through because we're done. We're done with all of this, and we have the total military advantage. We have no reason to wait. We had this summer offensive that's been hanging around with our hundreds of thousands of soldiers hanging on the sidelines. And it's basically like, Zelensky, get out, or, go the way of, of any other totalitarian leader. What happens at the end of the day, because this has to happen and we're done. And so it's very interesting to see. It looks like this is going to be happening very soon. And Trump ending this war, and I believe what he said, that if we don't stop it, if USA isn't involved in ending this, that we will have a World War III, is absolutely true. That's what they wanted. They're, the globalists aren't happy about the power that they're losing, and we're all just kind of looking around saying, hey, what is, what angles are we losing? What's happening? But we have just giant amounts of wins, and so it's like you can be constantly, angry about this or that thing that's not happening, but huge, massive things are happening. And so I want to, just put this out there. We're seeing people like Darren Beattie who was at Revolver News, super expert on everything to do with, all of the censorship, everything to do with cyber control that was taking over, and getting all of us thrown offline, all of it. He's now the acting director of the Institute for Peace. Okay, remember when Doge went in? Of course, big balls out of Doge. He was beaten up the other day. Trump's going to federalize the police there in D.C. Totally beat up. We pray for him. Awful, awful. I believe his parents were defectors out of Russia who fled to basically come to America. And he's an amazing mind, but he got beat up by like 10 youths, again, gang style, just like Seth Rich or anybody else. Um, and but that's an aside. But when Doge went to the Institute for Peace, which is a total, opposite of reality, total George Orwellian situation, because they had guns there, they were refusing the entry of the Trump administration into the building. Now Darren Beatty's running the thing, and that's quite exciting because what we're having here, the reason Trump went after USAID to start with in the first place was because that's where the funding comes for all of the cultural revolutions, and they know that. The what is it called here? We got the Democracy Playbook, of course, written, always revised by Norm Eisen, the massive lawfare agent that created such a huge part of the infrastructure of what is the lawfare infrastructure of the globalists versus the American people in the takeover and takedown of America for the King's Privy Council and Boasberg, hugely shot down today, which is great. The Inn of Courts, all of it. Okay, the Pilgrim Society. Well, the Democracy Playbook and the Brookings Institute, and of course the Center for Democracy out of USAID, all taken down because that was what they were going to use to destroy America. And look, there's no riots. Okay, everything they tried to kick off last spring it's not happening because the money's not there, and plus the infrastructure of the Trump administration is moving forward so rapidly that they can't stop it. And so let's look at what Boasberg, what happened to him today. He basically violated rules in court. They're going after him after the appellate court shot down this contempt trap that he tried to do with the first initial deportations to ECOT, right down to El Salvador, the supermax prison, where they were sending out the violent criminals in deportations. And Jeff Boasberg, Inn of Courts, exactly, King's Privy Council, Pilgrim Society, all of it, and Norm Eisen, as I mentioned before, all of them connected with Chief SCOTUS Roberts, right? And the plan, all interconnected with how to do lawfare against America and American people. Well, he had his contempt trap. Boasberg contempt trap was defeated versus the Trump DOJ. Struck down, and they cited his abuse of power. They said it's an egregious abuse of power and discretion that he tried to create this contempt charges against lawyers out of the DOJ to do with trying to stop these deportation flights, which I've said it before, but he basically had in the middle of the night done an oral order to stop the flights as the chief DC district judge. And it was just an oral order. He put it out in the middle of the night so they wouldn't know. The flights have already left or about to leave. And so he tries to hold the lawyers in contempt. And that was overthrown again after the SCOTUS Supreme Court already shot down his other attempt to control the flights. Okay, they shot down that, but now they shot down his attempt to try to hold members of the DOJ in contempt. So huge wins are going on here, and it's very, very exciting. It keeps on giving. Those revelations about Bill Barr, Fonnie Willis, the Fulton County situation, try to create this RICO lawfare against Trump. This is massive what's going on. And so I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to see it all. And honestly, we've got more and more coming. And next week will be amazing as well. And I will mention this, which is also awesome, in Massachusetts, in Boston, that awful state that is the birthplace of our country that has been taken over by globalists. This is where you had, of course, Concord, Lexington and Concord, and the Revolutionary War, and Boston, and the Tea Party. The whole thing of kicking off our revolution against the crown, it has been taken over to the max. It's been, of course, Democrat run for decades and decades. Um, but now we have, as the fight goes on against the Massachusetts globalists, Sheriff Stephen Tompkins, in Boston, he has been arrested for extortion and bribery, charged with extortion and bribery of $50,000 to basically a pot dealer, to a cannabis, company that wanted to open up a storefront in Texas. He's been on the take to basically have them pay him to allow there to be licensing for them to open in the city. So that's fantastic. And this is a guy who had been, of course, massively refusing to work with ICE. And what we've seen out of Massachusetts, it's been like, I don't know, dozens of child predators, massive drug dealers, rapists, murderers, that ICE has collected off the streets of Massachusetts. And so seeing the arrest of Sheriff Stephen Tompkins is a giant big win. Okay, so I might leave it there. There's so much more as we see Letitia James subpoenaed for mortgage fraud, and that grand jury impaneled by Ed Martin. He's now special prosecutor per Pam Bondi, AG, to go up and deal with these mortgage fraud cases with Adam Schiff and Letitia James. I think another special prosecutor could take care of that. Ed Martin's got his hands full. And is this a hobbling of Ed Martin a bit when he has this weaponization of government? He's working with Hermie Dillon. She's the amazing, of course, assistant AG to do with civil rights. And what that means is all of these conspiracies against the rights of the American people that have been done. And you look across the board of everything coming out when it is, whether it is Russiagate, Crossfire Hurricane, the election steal, all of this is conspiracy against rights of the American people on a mass fraud scale. You can go back 10 years. And it means that we have been absolutely defrauded of our rights, our constitutional rights. We have an ongoing rolling coup, an attempt to overthrow our rights. And Ed Martin's, I would say, much better used in something larger than mortgage fraud against these dirtbags, Letitia James and Adam Schiff. But, hopefully that won't be a big part. I think he'll be putting some assistants in charge of that. And we will keep on, we'll keep watching what's coming. So I want to urge everybody here at the end that, join the redistricting fight. A lot of people might think, oh, this is something happening in Texas, but so many states are going to become part of this redistricting effort, which is so important because we know that at least, I would say at least 30 seats minimum have been stolen through fake Democratic gerrymandering, of course, using the illegal immigration. So Trump's, doing this half-decade census, but he has to put new people in charge of the census because the 2020 census allowed all of this to happen with the same deep state players in charge of the census. So whoever's in charge of the census has to be, of course, new, professional, awesome people who know the lay of the land. Mathematicians, economists, and people who are knowing the full the statisticians. Is what I'm trying to say on the Trump team, to get a full and fair and real view of the land as the deportations of all of the mass migration brought in through Biden is happening, and that all the people since that period to be discounted out of those states. And so 30 seats minimum are fake Democratic seats, not to mention all of the election steal that happened even in 2022, right? What we in 2024, what we saw in California, other places of these stolen seats where the votes kept coming in for 2 weeks, 3 weeks later before they called the election in these places and lost. The Republicans lost because they just kept accepting more and more mail-in ballots that were fraudulent. And we know they've come out of China, and it's already been known, right? So, um, join the redistricting fight in your state. Be up for it. Even in Texas here, the call to action is working. It's still a slow roll. Those speakers, we have AG Paxton now putting out basically to the Supreme Court of Texas that we want at least 13 Democrats to be declared that they have vacated their seat of office and that they are expelled from Congress. And I think that's fantastic. You want to support that happening. You can call 512-463-2000, 512-463-2000 for Governor Abbott to support this. And then also call the speaker. He's under massive pressure. He's a rhino Speaker of the House, total betrayer of Texas. And that's 512-463-1000. And he is getting nervous, but he's trying to keep working his edge. His big thing, his big punishment to the Democrats who are rogue and breaking the quorum, now the 9th day in of the breaking of the quorum, is to say, oh, you can't get your check anymore, your paycheck direct deposited. You're going to have to come here to Texas and collect an actual paycheck, paper check. Okay, that's the big gaslighting that you get from the speaker. But that's what I'm saying. It's the getting involved in the redistricting fight is a really big deal. So if you want to put your energy somewhere in this next while, that's a great place to put it. And as well, I would say also, in upcoming elections, getting the DAs and the Soros funded DAs and AGs out of your state and your city is so important. What they're doing, of course, to destroy law and order in this country is also a massive thing. So I will leave it there. One funny thing that also came out of MSM today, which is just hysterical, is that they're accusing Trump with the missions to the moon. And of course, I mentioned yesterday, Sean Duffy with we're going to put a nuclear power plant on the moon by 2030, as if there's not already tons of stuff going on the dark side of the moon. But basically, they're saying that Trump wants to have like a white supremacist colony. He wants to colonize the moon, all right, as an elite white supremacist thing. And it's just so hysterical because of what the globalists with the secret space program already have going. Just blows that away out of the park. Okay, go to the domes, go to the deep underground military bases, find the children. Okay, could we get the children that are used in mass swarms of just the basically doing the psychic fights. I'll just say here, that they basically, they use these kids for massive spiritual purposes that are, there's the demonic stuff, there's the organs, there's all of the awful that they do to these kids, the sexual abuse, all of it, the traumatic programming. And then at the end of the day, they also use them as batteries and psychic batteries for channeling all kinds of stuff, including for entertainment purposes only, assassinations, mind control and interference on people that they're targeting. These kids are like power battery spirit weapons, okay, plugged into a huge matrix system that is um, it's evil beyond imagination. So that is the next step, and that's hopefully where we're getting to when we talk about breakaway civilization, take down the secret space program, or whatever. Let's free up the battery packs, the kids, the 500,000 at least that we know are missing. Okay, go to the deep underground military bases, you'll find the kids. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to plug here at the end just to say, hey, again, c60evo.com/YAFTV. This is the miracle molecule. It gets into your mitochondria, into your neurons, cleans up everything, takes it out, takes the garbage out using connecting with your melatonin, your glutathione, the big heavy lifters to get the garbage out of your mitochondria and your cells. Cellular health is, of course, the key to health of all degenerative diseases, including the big C, including all of them, especially the ones that have been super turbocharged by the biowar. And so check it out, c60evo.com/YFTV. Use the code YFTV for 10% off. Anybody who contributes to the channel gets 15% off. And I also put you in a grab bag giveaway, random selection for 2 people every month who get a free bottle of C60 Evo capsules. I like the capsules. They're handy. You can put them in your pocket, but there's also the liquids that a lot of people like more, that don't want the gelatin caps, etc. And the MCT oil, specifically awesome for workouts. Again, MCT oil, people, for their brain power, they love it. But also inflammation, nerve issues, just so much. And I'm doing a fundraiser on this channel, and in the description below, you'll see sort of the basic way it's going. But if you remember back in March, I did a BOGO, big, huge sale, buy one, get one, of the capsules that were basically timing out in the sense of what is the expiration date that is required. But these have like a 10-year shelf life for entertainment purposes only. But seriously, they time out on their expiration. But as a fundraiser for the channel, I am putting it out there for people that this has nothing to do with c60evo.com. It's just here with the channel. If you want to try it, I'm trying to do a fundraiser for the channel so I can get more time. They're trying to do a lot of things here to be able to do more with this channel. And so I'm basically, as part of a fundraiser, anybody who contributes $60 or more to the channel, I will send you a bottle of the technically expired a couple months ago Evo, and that helps pay for shipping, and plus then just like $50, like less than a third of the cost of what it is. And then for anybody who relies on it and uses it all the time, you can go up from there. Basically, anyone who contributes $200 to the channel, you just get 4 bottles sent to you with no added mailing things attached to that. So it just goes up from there. So just check it out below in the description if that's something that you always fill up on it anyway, and you want to support the channel. Now's a great opportunity to do so. Thanks so much for watching. We are free, TGIF. It's Friday. I hope that you will get out and really enjoy your family, your fellowship. Turn off your devices for long periods of time this weekend and sit in your prayer war room. Sit in your prayer room and just full on make yourself available, okay, for God's word to you, for God's instructions for your life, for your days, for the people you're supposed to reach out to, for the tasks that you're supposed to undergo. Because we all know what we resonate with. And the more we act on those little whispers from God or those big mandates from God, when you act on those, your life just starts to streamline and increase and become more and more powerful. You become a more and more powerful agent. So listen to those incredible messages you get. You have people like Bob Bodine. He talks about his method called 2 chairs that his mother taught to him, where he sets up 2 chairs, and one is for God, one is for him. And it's just, you sit every morning, you talk to God. It's the first thing you do in the day. You listen to your instructions. You also listen to the great, wonderful advice and messages and comforting and upliftment. And then you go from there. I think that's a great method. So, thank God it's Friday. Thank God I'm free. And you are free. And I will see you on Monday. And we do have that interview coming that we had some time issues to deal with Leo, but we'll be doing that soon to break down some of the depth connections between the Epstein-Maxwell connections and the Trotskyites of Ukraine. Okay, big surprise there. Okay, all the best to you. You are free.